Hi, this is Jenny Langley, author of the new Maudsley training manual. In this video, we'll be looking at exercise 2.3 from module 2, and it's understanding the toxic effect of prolonged starvation on the brain, or even just irregular eating habits. So if there's binging and then starvation, or if there's binging and purging, that can have similar effects as well. And this exercise helps carers to understand some of the seemingly irrational and repetitive behaviours that come with the eating disorders that can be really quite annoying, but having a better understanding can increase empathy for why those behaviours keep going on and on and on. Okay, so it can feel like the whole family's sinking in quicksand with these repetitive behaviours that just won't go away. So the carers are trying to offer help. The more they offer help, the more the loved one might resist, and it might feel to the carers that their loved one is sinking deeper and deeper into the quicksand. And at the same time, the sufferer is thinking, I quite like being in this position. I feel safe. Go away. I'm okay. So you've got this constant tension. And it can be really, really frightening for carers to feel that their loved one is just being sucked down and they can't do anything about it. Okay, so the brain, what happens to the brain then when there's not regular nutrition? The brain is very sensitive to poor nutrition, and that might be the chaos of overeating as well as starvation. It needs more calories per pound than any other organ. So it needs 500 calories. It weighs about 3 pounds, whereas a pound of muscle only needs about 100 calories and a pound of fat only needs about 20 calories. So the brain is a really, really, really hungry organ. It also needs oil, so it can't just function on just food. There has to be an element of oil in there. And then carbohydrates are really important for the brain, because eating carbohydrates is the most natural way to boost your serotonin levels. So no wonder people who are really restricting their diet quite often seem quite sad, because they're struggling to make enough serotonin. So without regular and varied nutrition, the brain can become sort of paralysed and act in a very strange way. Now, with the brain as well, it's very much a creature of habit. So if a behaviour is repeated, then the brain sort of hardwires that, and the brain will expect it to carry on. So with anorexia, the brain will expect the person to carry on restricting food, and with bulimia and binge eating disorder, the brain will expect food to be always available, maybe in a quite chaotic fashion, and these habits can be really, really quickly entrenched. Okay, so we've got lots of research on the actual impact of poor nutrition on the brain. So some of the things that the loved one will stop doing or find much harder to do will be to get any pleasure from social connection. So likely to become very withdrawn, isolated, not able to read visible cues of how other people are feeling. They may become very volatile. They lose that sort of being able to check themselves or monitor themselves in terms of their emotional regulation. Really difficult to make decisions. And, you know, so anything out of the ordinary can be, you know, really challenging. So there might be increased demands then for reassurance. So is this okay? Have I got this right? Will this make me fat? And again, it goes on and on and on and on. Reduced flexibility. So really difficult for people to cope with unexpected changes or challenging events coming up. And again, difficulty to plan for any challenging events. And what the irregular eating seems to do in terms of increasing habits in the brain is that there'll be lots and lots of thinking about food. So maybe not much eating, but lots of thinking about food. And it's interesting that people with anorexia quite often feed everyone around them. They do lots of baking and want to make elaborate meals, but they don't want to eat it themselves. We see lots of compulsive behaviours. High rates of obsessive compulsive disorder traits within people with eating disorders. And certainly with our son, he developed loads and loads of really sort of obsessive compulsive rituals. So partly around exercise, but also having to pick up litter, touching surfaces, going up and down stairs in a certain manner, everything having to be just so in his bedroom, having showers at a certain time of day. You know, it was almost like a law. I have to do these things. Super sensitive. So the brain becomes super sensitive to threat. And that might be the threat of punishment, or it might be the threat of being rejected, or the threat of uncomfortable social interactions, and the inability to focus on the bigger picture. So just really focusing down on detail, and obviously lots of perfectionist traits. So some of the common behaviours that come up in the workshops when we talk about how the brain is affected. A repetitive exercise, really, really common. And it becomes really extreme really quickly. So with our son, he had to do 500 press-ups, 500 pull-ups, 500 sit-ups before breakfast. The inability to feed your body, and it's just like, but I don't need that food, and real confusion around that. Lots of body checking, which is really time consuming and very distressing. And of course, the closer you look in the mirror, the worse you look. Inability to choose a meal, so maybe wanting to eat the same meal every day, or just finding social situations where there's a choice really, really, really difficult. Becoming withdrawn from the family and friends because of the difficulties with social interaction, poor social connections, lots of rigidity, you know, things must be just so. So if there's going to be a family party, how am I going to escape if someone says the wrong thing? You know, that sort of thing is really important. Mood swings. So when our son was ill, we noticed that he would have these raging temper tantrums, and we were confused, you know, is this just part of normal teenage behaviour, or is this part of the eating, sort of part of the impact that the malnutrition has had on his brain? Very argumentative, very black and white thinking in that sense as well. It's like, you know, I'm right, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about, pushing us away, taking everything very personally. You know, you don't trust me, you don't believe in me, you'd be better off without me. So all of these behaviours are very frustrating for carers. But if they can understand that this is just kind of normal because it's the way the brain reacts to poor nutrition, then it can be easier for carers to understand those behaviours. And then what they can do is they can calmly observe and say, so we've noticed that this is going on, but without any judgment or without any criticism. If you ever want help with that, we're here for you. So unconditional love, understanding, patience, empathy, all of these skills from carers can really help the sufferer to start to try and think about making their own changes. So anyway, I hope that will make sense. Thank you for watching. All of the worksheets and videos can be seen at our new website, www.newmaudsleykcarers-kent.co.uk. Thank you.